Okay, so there is a number of things I want to bring into this video rather than making several videos, so bear with me. Um, the reason I'm not making several videos is because part of me feels like this subject is being exhausted, but another part of me feels that it's a subject that has to be exhausted, that has to be there. Um, I'm just an outsider. Quite honestly, this does not affect me in terms of my life personally, but I've always said that I want to use my YouTube platform as a way of voicing my opinion. So that's all I'm doing. I'm not telling anyone what to do. I'm not telling anyone they have to agree with me, but I will utilize my right to freedom of expression and, you know, use this as a platform to voice my views. And there are some things that, whilst not affecting my life, I feel strongly about um, because it's just so stupid. Anyway, the first thing I want to address, this is all related to the gun issue and what happened in Florida. That will be obvious from the title. Since that massacre, there have been people rearing their ugly head online in a way that is beyond despicable, in my opinion. And these people, in my view, are about as extreme in terms of conspiracy theories as you can get. Now, I'm not one of these people that say all conspiracy theories are nonsense. There's no basis for any of them. It's all, only mad people think of conspiracy theories. I don't propose that. I think some conspiracy theories have quite a large amount of weight. And of course, it goes without saying that where there is power, there is a potential for cover up. And, that comes with the territory of power. So I'm not dismissing all conspiracy theories. But I have to say, anybody who would stoop so low to insult survivors of a massacre by telling them that they're actors is, in my view, beyond despicable. But not just that, I think it is symbolic of the problem that exists among many gun zealots. They're utterly paranoid. So their focus has been particularly on two students from the Marjorie Stoneman Douglas High School, Emma Gonzalez and David Hogg, who have been quite prominent in the student-led protests against gun violence. The focus on this young guy, David Hogg, is because his father happened to work for the FBI for a while. But he is, as he confirmed on CNN, a student of the school. He hasn't been drafted in from some other part of the country. And yeah, the young woman, Emma Gonzalez, has been very outspoken. But you know what? Why shouldn't they be outspoken? Why shouldn't they be vocal? Why shouldn't they have strong opinions on this? They have seen their friends cut down in cold blood. It would be a bit strange if they were passive. So the NRA's line is, and especially some of these conspiracy theorists online, their line is basically, well, the NRA's line, Wayne Lapierre, despicable human being as far as I'm concerned, his line was that the Democrats are using them. But the conspiracy nuts, and I make no apology for calling them that, to actually come out with comments like paid crisis actors in staged operation and all the other crap that they come out with. They came out with the same things after Sandy Hook. Even most Second Amendment advocates would not go that far, would not stoop that low. I mean, these people are deranged. Do they really think that these students are actors? I mean, that's beyond despicable. It's like insulting a victim of crime. It's like rubbing salt into the wound, as we would say here. It's beyond appeal. And I was thinking, what can get into the mentality of someone who comes out with these sort of lines? Well, I think probably they're the sort of people who want to stock up, and they're convinced that the government's going out to get the weapons, and They're living in a world of paranoia. And the scary thing is, any one of them could be the next mass shooter. Because if you look at mass shooters, there is a consistency. They're almost always gun enthusiasts. They're almost always gun zealots. Like they usually have an obsession with guns, and not just in America. In one of the cases we had here in Dunblane, the shooter in that case was a gun nut. Now, by gun nut, I want to be very clear about this. I'm not talking about gun owners. I'm not even talking about people who enjoy going to a shooting range. From what I understand, it's fun, right? I'm talking about people who are so delusional that they think, for example, you need to carry a loaded weapon in a Starbucks or other public place. I'm talking about people so far out there that they would go to the point of smearing teenagers who've been involved in such a horrendous experience. And I think it's despicable. And I think the NRA, if not directly endorsing these views, certainly placates them with the sort of rhetoric that they're coming out with. And I just think it's despicable, but I think most people know it's despicable. And they're cards, they're gutless, faceless cards who hide it behind their computer screen. I'm not hiding. You can see my face here. I am Nathan Hazlett. I have strong views on the gun issue. This is who I am. They're hiding behind the computer screens, coming out with these absurd basis conspiracy theories. I mean, the thing about the young guy, his father was in the FBI. That is absolutely coincidental. They're trying to get these two things and working together. Well, what about all the other students whose fathers weren't in the FBI? You know, um, it's just so delusional. It's so disgusting that they would attack. But that's that. Let them be cards. Let them be faceless nobodies who have nothing. They've got no legitimate argument. They've got no basis for their claims. And this isn't coming from some noble pursuit of truth. This is coming from a nasty, vindictive. I mean, they've done it after Sandy Hook as well. And that is how deranged they are. They're so paranoid about, well, in the Obama years, about the government taking away guns, that they actually think these massacres are all set up. It's all invented. It didn't actually happen. I mean, I don't even know where to begin with people like that. You know, the Loch Ness monster is more likely to exist than the theories that they come out with. Excuse me, I've still got this ulcer. It's quite painful, but nowhere near the pain that those students are going through. Um, so anyway, there's a few other things I want to discuss. I watched the CNN town hall debate, or at least a good bit of it. I didn't watch it from start to finish. It was very tense, as was to be expected. Now, there was particular focus on, there were two Democratic senators there, I forget their names. There was a law enforcement official there, I forget his name. But the particular focus was on Marco Rubio and Dana Lewis, who's a spokesman for the NRA. Particular focus on them too, because apparently, well, no, apparently about it. Marco Rubio has an A plus uh, rating from the NRA, and Dana Lewis, of course, is the villain in the pantomime. She is, and I shouldn't even use that term. I shouldn't trivialize it that way. But I knew they were going to get a rough ride. Now I give them credit for being there, um, but that's really all I give them credit for. I mean, they took a lot of heat, and usually in these situations, I would say, it's not fair that people speak and so on. But I totally understand why. I can't say I empathize because I don't know what it's like to be in the shoes of those parents and those students, but I understand why they would be very angry and why emotions would be very, very raw. Now, Marco Rubio said he supported the push for legislation on the, I think it's called the bump stock, the ammo bump. Forget the exact name, but basically the device that allows you to repeatedly load up much faster than would be usual. The president's proposing that be banned. That is about the only thing that Trump has done on the gun issue. Um, Rubio says he supports that. He also agreed. He was very obviously sensitive in the way he was talking to the students. He's a very capable politician. I think he was very, he's a very seasoned campaigner. Rubio's never crude. He's well spoken, but at one point, one of the students challenged him, "Will you stop taking money from the NRA?" Now, at this point, I think Rubio really, frankly, came across for what he is, an NRA stooge. And I want to be fair to Rubio because I do think he showed guts to be there. He took a lot of heat, and he went along with a lot of the things the students were saying. He said this guy should never have had a gun. I support tougher background checks. He was saying all the right things, but when it came to that critical question, will you stop taking money from the NRA? He would not answer directly. He came out with a politician's answer that people endorse me, I don't endorse them. It's just a very vague. I mean, he skirted around that one, and it did not go down well. Now, to be fair to Rubio, he has been calling out these conspiracy theorists. He's been telling them to, that it's despicable what they're doing. Um, and Rubio has done more than most Republicans have by showing his face. I mean, Governor Scott of Florida, apparently the NRA has said he's passed more pro-gun legislation than any other Florida governor ever. Scott was nowhere to be seen. So Rubio, at least he showed his face, and give him credit for that. But the NRA question, he really he would not. What that showed is that for all his saying compassionate things and saying he understood the anger and all of that, he could not bring himself to say from this day on I will not take any more NRA money. I was wrong to do that. And Rubio took over $3 million from the NRA in his campaign. So I think Rubio really let him down with that. And I quite like Marco Rubio on a personal level. I think he's a capable politician. He's one of the Republicans I wouldn't, if I was American, I wouldn't vote Republican, but among the Republicans, he's one I care for more. Um, and I think that was really an opportunity for him to just say, I will not be kowtowed by the NRA, and he did not do it. Now, Dana Lewis, as you would expect, got a very rough reception and have no sympathy for her. She is the poster girl for the NRA. She kept trying to deflect about the guy being mad. She was, again, using all the sort of compassionate language, oh, you're brave young people for, and I applaud you for speaking out. But there's a clear contradiction in what she's saying. She kept trying to deflect. The guy was nuts. He shouldn't have had a gun. Guess which organization makes it much easier for the likes of him to get a gun? So whether she is the moderate face of the NRA or whether the NRA has kind of put her forward to take the heat, why wasn't Wayne the Pierre there? I mean, he's another card. Why wasn't he showing his face? There's certain powerful people have come out of this, as far as I'm concerned, real cards. Wayne LaPierre, Governor Scott, and Donald Trump. Why? Because they've given utterly weak responses. Trump may have met a few students, but he was not taking it in. His notion of arming teachers, which of course he's denied, but then he contradicted himself as he always does, is beyond ridiculous. Teachers want to teach; they don't want to become paramilitaries in a school. It's crazy. But the saga continues because now it turns out that the law enforcement officer who was at the school at the time is taking a lot of criticism. Apparently, his house is needing police protection. Um, Apparently, the shooting was going on for 6 minutes, and he stood by outside for 4 minutes. Now, I admit that it's if he was trained to deal with these sort of situations and he'd done nothing, that is extreme negligence. But for Trump to come out and call him a card is utterly It's just beyond appeal. I mean, without knowing the full details of what exactly has happened here, and I think they may be trying to set up this guy as a scapegoat without wanting to get into conspiracy theories of my own. There is a risk that could happen because the local law enforcement are now starting to come under scrutiny as to why, and the FBI is coming under scrutiny. The president is being fiercely criticised, but he doesn't care because Trump is a yes man for the NRA. Trump is never going to condemn the NRA ever. Um, the Times had an interesting cartoon the other day. In fact, I'll get it. This is worth showing. Bear with me a second. I think this is worth showing because it really summarizes how absurd the situation is. Hopefully, I'll be able to find it. I probably should have prepared this in advance, but I do want to find it because I think it really demonstrates the situation. Here we go. That's a cartoon in the London Times, and I think that really sums it up. I'll show you once again. Yeah, that's Trump's attitude, and it would be funny if there weren't lives at stake here. So for Trump to call anyone a card when he had the response that he did, offering thoughts and prayers, but refusing to even mention guns, what was just utterly. I mean, he spent a long time criticizing Obama for refusing to use the term Islamist. Now, I felt Obama could have been more vocal on that. But what's Trump doing now? He got support from the NRA in his campaign. Therefore, he's scared to say the word guns. Pathetic. One of the students who questioned Rubio said, because Rubio said he supported the bill to ban bump stocks, the student said that feels like the start of a 5K run. Rubio says it'll be a lot more than 5K. So Rubio was conceding a lot of ground. And I have to say, there were several points in that I I was wondering, was Rubio actually starting to reflect on his own thoughts? Not just because he was getting a rough time. I think he was maybe thinking, could I be wrong? Have I maybe should I not have taken that money? But the problem is he got himself into a rut. I don't know. I'd like to be optimistic and think that Rubio, rather than just, having to deal with the heat, actually was being genuinely reflective on his own stance on this. We'll see, I guess, in the next election, the midterms and so on. Um, okay, final few words. I know some people will be perplexed. So why is this outsider care so much? Well, for the reasons said. I feel strongly about it because it just seems to be so tragic and so heartbreaking to see these families constantly having to deal with this. And there was real anger, raw anger there from parents. There was that father, of course, that um, basically said to the president of the United States, I am pissed by this. Now, Trump knew he could say anything in that situation. But by this madness, I suppose the only good that's come out of this is it does sort of feel like this time, finally, there might be some real change. But I wouldn't hold my breath on it. I'll leave it there.